убеждены,
At the same
что
time,
чтобы
we're
украинское урегулирование носило устойчивый и долгосрочный характер, должны быть устранены все первопричины кризиса, о которых говорили неоднократно. Обеспечен учет всех законных озабоченностей России, восстановлен справедливый баланс в сфере безопасности в Европе и в мире в целом. Я согласен с президентом Трампом, он сегодня говорил об этом, что, безусловно, должна быть обеспечена и безопасность Украины. Конечно, мы готовы над этим работать. Хочется надеяться, что достигнутое нами понимание позволит приблизиться к той цели и откроет дорогу к миру на Украине. Мы рассчитываем, что в Киеве и европейских столицах воспримут все это в конструктивном ключе и не станут чинить никаких препятствий, не будут предпринимать попыток за счет провокаций или закулисных интриг сорвать намечающийся прогресс.
I pointed out can you guys hear me okay? No sound on the video. Hold on. Why is there no sound on the video? Hold on, give me 1 second. Let's try this one more time, because that's important. In fact, all right. What Putin said there and what Donald Trump said there was what took place in the meeting. I'll just cut that part out. What took place in the meeting was effectively Putin saying we need to eliminate the root causes. And he pointed out, I hope the agreement reached together won't be hindered by Europe. Effectively, that Europe won't throw a spanner in the works on the agreement that you and I reached. Then they turned around and said the same thing when Trump came on and said, nothing is agreed upon until everything is agreed upon. We've had some really great people on my side of the aisle working with you guys effectively to come up with whatever agreement that we have. We have one big item that we need to deal with, but for all intents and purposes, I'm going to call NATO, I'm going to call Zelensky, and we're going to go from there. Meaning, all those cynical people who said this is a nothing burger, nothing is taking place, those people are wrong. Those people are wrong. And in my analysis on the video, immediately after the press conference, it sounds like I was more right considering the events that have taken place today leading into Monday. And I'm going to get into that today since this is a weekend update. This is the second weekend update. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are, right. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Sunday up to this point. It is late. It's like 1 a.m. here. But I thought I wanted to give a weekend update considering the events that have taken place over the last 24, 48 hours, ever since the Alaska meeting has taken place. Shout out to all of you in the audience. I'm glad that you can join me today. We have a damn good show for you today. By the way, if you tend to enjoy this content, you find yourself coming back to this channel often, please like this video, share this video. You can contribute to this video, either PayPal, Super Chat, membership, Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon. That may be all of them. Your contribution is deeply appreciated, and you help keep this content ticking along. I want to get into this. Because this is fascinating. My take on this was actually quite good. When I went through the analysis of the press conference, I pointed out that Putin wasn't necessarily going to deviate from the things that he wanted to accomplish. However, in that context, when they were coming out, having a meeting, many people would say, well, this is a nothing burger. Nothing got accomplished. There wasn't any deal agreed upon. There was never going to be a deal agreed upon in this meeting because all things being equal, Trump told you in advance that he was going to call Europe and he was going to call Zelensky in order to give them what took place in the meeting. The fact that both of them came out and said, there's an agreement on the table. Our teams, the Russian team, the American team, has agreed upon the majority of the stuff. The rest we need to take to Europe, which means we are taking an agreement that we have collectively agreed upon to Zelensky and to Europe, and we are going to see if we can make this stick. But this is something that our teams, Russia and America, has agreed upon as a way forward. I also told you that when Europe, or if Europe, doesn't like the deal, and they were never going to like the deal, that they were going to immediately leak the deal to the press. Now, Trump and Zelensky, or Trump and Putin, were never going to leak the deal because for all intents and purposes, they're working through negotiations. Europe, who is not going to like anything that takes place, immediately leaks, and that's exactly what they do. What they wanted was this, effectively a surrender. Donald Trump comes out and says, I am not interested in a ceasefire. Not anymore. I want a peace deal. Period. Meaning I want to end the conflict. In fact, what Putin wanted is what he's been saying he wanted the entire time. Right here. The Russian leader, Vladimir Putin, proposed for Moscow to take control of the Donbass region and freeze the front lines elsewhere in exchange for ending the nation's war with Ukraine. President Trump supports his terms, the European diplomat told Fox. Notice this European diplomat, because they spilled their guts. It was like, oh my God. Europe had a collective shit fit. And apparently all of the leaders started meeting all at once at the point where this came out. This was their worst nightmare. This was their worst nightmare. Here's another one. After meeting with Putin on Friday in Alaska, Trump told European allies that Russian president reiterated that he wants key Luhansk, Donetsk regions, but that he appeared to be open to the possibility of ending the stalemate in Zaporozhye, Kherson, along the freeze on the front lines. I also told you that when leaders are in negotiations, oftentimes what they're negotiating is maximalist demands. Nobody negotiates from the 50-yard line. Democrats do, but most people, most rational human beings don't. You negotiate from the 0-yard line with the assumption that your opponent is going to negotiate from the 0-yard line with the idea that you're going to meet somewhere in the middle. Hey, I'll give you this. Okay, I'll give you this if you give me that. Okay, I'll take that if you give me this. You're horse trading. I have my core demands. These are the things that I'm not going to fudge on. These are things that I am walking out here with, or we just have no deal at all. And then you have things that are more fudgeable. Things that, all things being equal, you want, but you're willing to give. Now, you gave maximalist demands for the entire time. But, as I pointed out, typically there's fudge in those maximalist demands. You stood there maximalists. And even though all of Putin's demands sounded rational, I strongly suspect that there were fudge in them because Vladimir Putin is a politician. That was my thought. And so if that is indeed correct, and the reporting on this is correct, that was fudge. That was fudge in order to make the deal. So Trump has effectively agreed with the Russians and say, fair enough. I'm willing to accept this to get a peace deal, not a ceasefire, a peace deal. That's what I want. Trump came out, put this out, of course, on social media, Truth Social, got transposed to Twitter. A great and very successful day in Alaska. The meeting with Vladimir Putin of Russia went very, very well, as did a late night phone call with President Zelensky of Ukraine and various European leaders, including the highly respected Secretary of NATO. It was determined by all that the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement, which would end the war, not a mere ceasefire agreement, which oftentimes do not hold up. President Zelensky will be coming to D.C. the Oval Office on Monday afternoon. If it all works out, we will then schedule a meeting with President Putin. Potentially millions of people's lives will be saved. Thank you for your attention on this matter. Now, Russia has said that there's been no agreement to meet with Zelensky at all. They consider him illegitimate. Donald Trump wants this as early as next week. We'll see what happens. Zelensky is going to the White House on Monday. Hillary Clinton was so angry at this that she got arrested yesterday for throwing a fit.
Stop. Oh my God. Oh my God. No, I'm going to call the police.
Hillary Clinton shouldn't be acting like that. Hillary Clinton should not be acting like that. I know she has feelings, but she should not be acting that way. Either way, long story short, Trump, the Russians agree. Europe has a collective shit fit. And in the context of having that collective shit fit, Zelensky, each one calling him, boosting his ego. And in boosting his ego, Trump once again comes out, puts out another tweet. This time, he says, Ukraine must be willing to lose some territory to Russia. Otherwise, the longer the war goes on, they will keep losing even more land. What's important about that is the context of that meeting. Meaning the meeting between Trump and Putin would have never taken place if the context of the battlefield hadn't gotten so prodigiously bad that Donald Trump recognizes every day that this war goes on, the Ukrainian military gets closer and closer to collapsing. And between the Ukrainian military collapsing versus me making a deal that can save face where I could come on and say, hey, we got a deal, as opposed to a complete collapse on the battlefield, it is better for me to save face, even if me saving face is a surrender. It's that. Trump gets it. It's humiliated. The United States was the main provocateur of this war. And in the context of the main provocateur of this war, we're the main mover and shaker of this war. If it collapses and falls apart, that is on us. We are the ones that lead NATO. We are the ones where Europe is calling daddy. So you can imagine that from the Trump administration's point of view, regardless of what they say openly, amongst each other, they know. All right. So Europe and the European leaders freak out. They freak out. Zelensky put out that he is coming to DC. Now, the European leaders turned around and said, we're also coming to DC. A carnival of idiots are going to be traveling with a king clown. And all of them effectively were like, okay, we'll come. We are going to be his comfort animal. And we are going to help Zelensky out. Because what they are terrified of is that Trump and Zelensky get into a pissing match again where Zelensky gets humiliated. And so their thought is, we're going to come and we're going to support Zelensky, and all of us are going to be in there together, a carnival of idiots talking to Donald Trump simultaneously in order to try to get him to change his mind. This also goes with the idea, a second humiliation, that an overarching peace treaty or overarching peace deal between Russia and the United States enshrines European security, meaning any deal that takes place between Ukraine and Russia, or let's say the US and Russia on this particular point, but ultimately between Ukraine and Russia, effectively creates a European security architecture without Europe being included. Russia, the US, sits together and determines what the security of Europe is going to look like without the European goofballs being a part of that conversation. So you can imagine Europe feels some kind of way about being left out because it highlights where Europe is on the global stage in real terms. So they decide, we are going to go and cheerlead Zelensky, give him moral support, hold his hand as he talks to Trump. And so you got all of these European leaders that are supposed to come with Zelensky. At Zelensky's request, von der Leyen will also join the White House. He was scared. He was like, I need somebody to come with me. Von der Leyen, Friedrich Merz. You have Rutte. You also have Macron that's supposed to be coming, Keir Starmer. All of these people who are a match for Kalis in regards to their intelligence. Right here. A carnival of idiots. Carnival of idiots. And just so I'm clear, I am not talking about you, Maloney. I'm not talking about you. Never you. Never you. See, there you go. That's better. That's better. I'm not talking about Maloney. I am talking about everybody else. Now, Donald Trump, bothered by, concerned with a physics principle that you can only have so much dumb in a finite amount of space, made the decision and demanded, you idiots are not going to be in my meeting. My meeting is going to be with Zelensky one-to-one. You comfort animals are not invited. You comfort animals are not invited. No comfortable blanket. No emergency blanket, no security animal. Zelensky and I will talk one-to-one first. Period. He has been summoned. You have not. Stay. Now, Trump did point out that after he has this conversation with Zelensky, then he'll be willing to have a luncheon with the European leaders. After I talk to him, then I'll talk to you. But I'm talking to him first. He's a grown man. He's gotten 1 million people killed. He can stand on his own and have a conversation with me. Then I'll talk to you other idiots. Period. What the European leaders need to realize is that it is very possible that Donald Trump wants to walk. And if they push him, and if they balk at this, then he may walk. And whether Zelensky makes a deal, or whether Zelensky don't make a deal, Putin is taking the Donbass either way. Give it 2 or 3 months. So, you can talk with me, we can make an agreement, I can stop you people from getting killed, or you can go it alone. Now the question becomes, will Trump go it alone? The Europeans are terrified of Daddy leaving. Trump I'm going to get some milk. Daddy, it's 2 a.m. I'm going to get some milk. But Daddy, why are you taking your suitcase? I needed to get milk. Door shut. Trunk closed. Get in the car and leave. You don't see Daddy for another 30 years. They have to know that. At the end of it all, Trump could just say, I'm screwing them out. Figure it out on your own. Like J.D. Vance said, you can buy my weapons, but we're out. We're not giving you no money. We're not giving you anything. We are out. That is the last door that Trump can walk through. And this is not like Joe Biden, where Joe Biden would have never walked through that door. This is a door that most likely Trump has wanted to walk through for a very long time in order to pivot to some other war that he wants to get involved in, either China or Iran. Just to be very clear, again, this is not U.S. giving up primacy. In a few years, Russia's going to build up. The U.S. is going to come up with some other scheme, either Azerbaijan or, for that matter, Armenia, or either Ukraine again. We will rip up a peace treaty the moment that peace treaty, we think we have an advantage. That's what we do. We're the U.S. But now, in the context of now, in a situation where we are tactically losing and losing badly, and again, in a few months, Donbass will fall. And in a few more months, more territory will fall. Ukraine doesn't have the capability of filling their gaps at this point. The manpower shortage is too extreme, and the Russian manpower advantage is too significant. Trump knows it. Whether Europe wants to live in the delusion, that's on them. So the real question in this is, will Trump walk if the deal that the Russians and him agree upon is not honored by the Europeans? That is a fascinating question. That is a fascinating question. To make this wilder, Zelensky comes out and says this. What do you think he's going to say? What do you think he's going to say? You tell me. What do you think he's going to say? And I'm going to love for him to tell this to Daddy. Also, notice he's out of his janitor outfit. He's not wearing his janitorial uniform, which is fascinating. I've never seen him in a suit coat.
Russia at the trilateral, unable to take it for 12 years. And the constitution of Ukraine makes it impossible to give up territory or trade land. Since the territorial issue is so important.
By the way, that's stupid. That's stupid. The Constitution of Ukraine does not disallow them from giving up territory. The Constitution of Ukraine at one point said Ukraine was neutral. They changed the Constitution because constitutions are not concrete. They aren't set in stone. You can change it with the flick of a pen. So this is a nonsense proposition that he is making. This is not going to be a proposition that Donald Trump is even going to accept. So there's that. Also, Zelensky is an illegal president. He has been in that office under martial law for years beyond what he was supposed to be. This is according to the Constitution. He didn't seem to care about it in the sense, right? So don't give me this nonsense about the Constitution. It doesn't matter. Let's keep going. I want to let him finish his speech. But ultimately, he is saying, no, we are not giving up land concessions. This is not something that we're doing. How dare he? And all of these other European idiots are like, yeah, Zelensky, you tell him. Good job, Zelensky. Okay. Tell Daddy that. Tell Daddy that. That's what I want to see. Tell Daddy that. Oh, I want to see that. I want to see that. You go tell Daddy that I'm not giving up anything, and I'm going to do that. Okay. As I pointed out before, the pressures that are applied to all of these people are somewhat different. From Zelensky's standpoint, he is a man with no future. Every grandma, every grandpa, every child, every rando soldier, every pizza guy that they press gang into the military, every one of those that gets killed, that gets pushed into a Russian wood chipper is one breath of life that Zelensky has at his disposal. He is a man with no future. The moment that this war is over with, they are going to be forced to have elections. Zelensky will lose that election. That's assuming Zelensky lives or gets out of this without being put in a cage. He's a man with no future. And of course, a man with no future is doing everything possible in order to extend the life that he has at his disposal, which is what he's doing now. We're not going to give any land up. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to give anything up. Again, from my point of view, whether Trump walks or whether you make a deal, I am content with both because they effectively mean the exact same thing. The position that Ukraine is in right now, if you're pulling away American intelligence, weapons, etc., you're going to fall, and you're going to fall faster. Russia wants you to fall faster. So Russia is perfectly okay with Donald Trump saying, I'm out, I'm going to get milk. I'm going to get milk. They're fine with it. They're fine with it. They don't want the U.S. to get further involved into the conflict. They do want the U.S. to get out of the conflict and leave Ukraine to its devices. Because what they know is one of two things is going to happen. Either Zelensky is going to be stupid enough to go to the point where the Ukrainian military collapses, or he's going to get so desperate, which, honest to God, he's there now, which is the reason why Trump is doing this. Trump wouldn't be doing this otherwise. That this will be revisited under worse terms. Sue me will be added. If indeed Kherson or the freezing of battle lines, well, those lines will be further to the west. Fascinating, right? Absolutely fascinating. So Europe is having a collective shit fit. Zelensky and all of the other European goofballs are delusional. Donald Trump seems to be agreeing with the Russians in a sense of saying, here's a pathway to end the war. I think this is fair, or at the very least, I think this is doable, considering the context on the ground. I'm bringing Zelensky here to have a conversation about it. Well, I'm going to effectively try to bully him into taking the deal. Now, Zelensky is a proxy. You have all sorts of CIA, you have all sorts of Azov, you have 1 million men that are dead, so you can imagine what life is worth. Zelensky can test that out. He may wake up to a bad morning, if necessary, as a threat to the next guy who Trump says, take the deal. And Trump has effectively said, you should take the deal, which is why he's bringing Zelensky here. Now, whether or not the Russians are going to have negotiations with Zelensky, I have no idea. I mean, they've, at this point, called them illegitimate. And maybe part of that deal is we would agree to this under the idea that elections are held immediately to get rid of him. There may be that, with the idea that the next president signs. Who knows? They've pointed out if Zelensky wins, then Zelensky wins. But nobody believes that Zelensky has any chance of winning any sort of election. So it's interesting. It's fascinating. What the Russians will need to ensure is that this is not Minsk 3. Full stop. I can't believe that Putin and Russia will put themselves in a position where this would be another Minsk 3. And what I mean by that is hyper-reactive to any breach, any deviation from anything that's agreed upon, with the idea that America and Ukraine follows through first. You've gone through Minsk 1 and 2. You've gone through the Istanbul agreements, meaning you've done your due diligence in regards to living up to your agreements on this. They have failed, with the idea that the United States always immediately comes behind and pretends as if they weren't aware that the other side has failed. Fair enough. If you want to play that game, play that game. What I'm pointing out is, from the Russian point of view, they should be hyper-reactive to any breach of any sort of deal, with the idea that we are always ready to go back in militarily if we need to on any provision that's broken. We're not doing Minsk 1 and 2 again. We're not doing the Istanbul agreements again. We're not doing the 1 inch to the east again. We're not playing this game. We're done with that. If that is the position that Russia is taking, fair enough. If that is not the position that Russia is taking, then they're going to be suckered once again. No effing around. This is about safety and security of the Russian Federation. If indeed the entire point of this was chasing safety, and if indeed you get a deal that allows you to get some measure of safety and some measure of normality among, let's say, your surroundings, that's assuming that that's what you ultimately get. If Donald Trump walks and Europe wants to consider continuing putting weapons in, then you are going to have to continue the war, which, again, Russia is fine with doing. So I hope you get my point. Whether Trump walks or whether they get a deal, providing that deal can be validated. And again, we have to see the rest of the provisions of that deal. No expansion of NATO will most likely have to be a part of it. Otherwise, it will be weird if Putin goes along with it. Denazification of Ukraine. Again, some of the stuff may be fudgeable. The territories that are part of the Russian Federation or Russian Constitution are part of the Russian Federation. I said that weirdly. Kherson and Zaporozhye is the interesting part. Now, this may be Fudge area, this notion of freezing the contact lines with the thought of saying, okay, we would consider the areas to which we've already conquered to be Zaporozhye and Kherson, as opposed to having Ukraine leave those areas, meaning that may be part of the Fudge. We need to see all of the provisions of this deal in order to figure out what this deal actually is. And I would imagine, even if Donald Trump gets Zelensky to say yes, there are going to be things in that still may be changed. So under no circumstances is one side of a deal the entirety of a deal. But it is very interesting and fascinating that Trump has come to a conclusion. I like what the Russians are offering. We're willing to accept this. We need to sell it to Europe and Zelensky. And of course, the Western media is freaking out. But again, they're idiots also. I would say one thing. All of these other European leaders are coming. And for whatever reason, they're leaving out the brightest of the bunch.
Is so much bigger economy than Russia is, with so much bigger military than Russia is. So if you're saying that you're not,
you have to bring her. You have to bring her. It's unfair that you don't bring her. And you need to let her talk. You need to give her a lot of time to talk. And you have to have the camera on her as she's talking. It's wrong if you don't let that woman talk. It's very wrong. She's very smart. She's very smart. So there's that. That is a breakdown of everything that's effectively taken place along these lines, I guess, over the course of the last couple of days. And we will see if that comes out to be anything. It's super interesting, though, to say the least. Trump is like, we need to settle this, not a ceasefire, which is effectively the Russian position and has been the Russian position for the entire time. Russia was open to a ceasefire, providing stop giving them intelligence, stop giving them weapons, stop this notion of allowing these guys to build up their military, stop doing all of this stuff, and we will consider a ceasefire, which is rational. The notion that we consider a ceasefire and you continue to fill them up with weapons and then they start press gang people, it's nonsense. It's insane. You guys are losing. Why would we do that? And the war continues, by the way. Russia continues to take territory. It was 2 or 3 territories over the last couple of days that they've taken. They continue to move. Anytime Ukraine tries to plug a hole, another hole opens up, in which case Russia presses on those lines. So areas that are dormant immediately burst to life, in which case they either have to let that area burst to life and lose it, or shuffle their people back, in which case the area to which they sent them the first time has a hole in it. They no longer have the capacity to fill their gaps. This is a recipe for disaster. Donbass, one way or the other, in 2 or 3 months, will be in Russian hands. I could be wrong, but that's what it seems like. So there is that. Let's go to chat before we go to the next subject. Diane Thomas, super sticker. Well, thank you, Mama Thomas. Appreciate your super sticker. Let's see. Old man. What is this? What is this? I think this is Anciano J. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. My prediction tomorrow, Trump going to tell Zelensky and NATO to end the war. If they refuse, the United States will be the one going to war with NATO. Well, if you mean going to war with NATO in the sense of saying I'm out, maybe. Maybe. I mean, they've come out pretty forcefully that this is a deal that we agree upon. We sat there, we hammered it out. I don't believe for a moment they hammered it out over 3 hours. I suspect they hammered it out over the course of the year. And let's be honest, they've already gut Europe. I mean, think about the weapons that Europe has been buying from the US. Think about the pipeline being blown up and the increase in oil revenues that are, again, coming to the US, or for that matter, where they're buying Russian oil, but through Saudi Arabia or India. Like, this is damaging to Europe. How do you have a business where you have to pay 5 times more for energy all of a sudden? That's why many of those businesses have closed. And in the context of tariffs, where they're paying, 15% now. So not only have your energy costs increased, not only have your NATO expenditures increased, that's assuming they did those expenditures, not only have you're spending more money on weapons that you're buying from the United States. Now you also have to deal with tariffs, which means your products are not necessarily going to sell as well as they were prior because there's a markup on those products. Like, he's fleecing Europe. It's almost like they're colonizing Europe. None of this is to the betterment of Europe and, by extension, NATO. So going to war with NATO, I don't exactly know what you mean by that. If you mean Trump walks and leaves Europe holding the bag, then yes. Yes. He may very well do that, which perfectly okay with. Kevin Wayne, has Trump cut U.S. support for military and intelligence? No, he has not. He has not. Hegseth sold Minsk 3 was good. Get Berletic on. Berletic will come on. In fact, he's going to be on tomorrow. But so what? Why do I give a shit? This is my point of view. He doesn't have to cut military benefits. There's been no deal that's been made. No deal has been cut. Nothing is agreed upon till everything is agreed upon. Brian has a certain point of view that is focused on policy documents, which I respect. I don't have to agree with any of them, I guess. So, feel how you feel, Wayne. It's what it is. But the reality of it is I've been right on this. You are going to have a lot of cynical people that are going to come to certain assessments. My assessment up to this point has been right. We'll see what happens on Monday. We'll see if Trump walks. We'll see if, we'll see. We'll see. We will see. We will see. I am super curious. I strongly suspect that if anything, if Trump does threaten to walk and decides to walk, then all things being equal, he's probably trying to start a war somewhere else. This idea that, well, I can't have two wars at the same time. That didn't go well when I was funding Israel and funding Ukraine. So I need to end this and so I can get to this other thing. I think what you get wrong, Wayne, and yeah, I do think you're getting it wrong, is that over and over again, this has been the tactic. The reason that they ended up with Minsk 1 and 2 was because Russia was on the brink of inflicting a massive defeat on Ukraine. And the way that Europe dealt with it was, wait a minute, let's come to a deal. Russia is about to inflict a massive defeat on Ukraine. And the way Trump is dealing with it is, wait a minute, let's come to a deal. The deal is not eternal, if that's what you think, that deals have to be eternal for those deals to be legitimate deals. Nothing is eternal. The deal is in order to get the U.S. out of a fix now. It's just now. The moment that the United States gets some level of an advantage, they will tear this deal up, just like they did the INF Treaty. They will tear it up, just like they did the JCPOA. They will tear it up, just like they did trade agreements. None of this stuff is permanent. All of this stuff has to do with the U.S. being in a horrible situation in regards to the battlefield. And between saving face and having a catastrophic loss as a tactical issue, obviously, it is the most logical thing in the world to try to save face. The idea is that Russia is not stupid enough to enter into something that would be Minsk 3. That is the idea. If they do that, if they put it this way, if Russia is under an illusion that, oh, the United States is doing us a favor, the United States is trying to work with us, the United States is, then they're insane. The United States is a bunch of rabid monsters that will look for any advantage in order to try to take over and decapitate the Russian Federation. Period. That should be baked into any conversation that takes place. Or at the very least, that should be baked into any deal that any person is entering into with the United States. If Russia is thinking otherwise, then yes, you're right. This would be another Minsk 3 and they would get suckered. I can't believe, I cannot conceive that the Russian Federation under Putin or any leader in Russia at this point, after going through what they went through for the last several years, and for the most part, Minsk 1, 2, and Istanbul agreements, that they would go through it again. I just don't buy it. I could be wrong. I just don't buy it. Let's see. Contradicts nothing, I said. If I contradicted nothing you said, then you've contradicted nothing I said. Which is kind of, what's the point of the post? My position has been consistent. I don't think this is a Minsk 3. I don't think Russia would put themselves in a position for another Minsk 3. And again, if they do, if they do, that would be tragic. Look, my take is that for all intents and purposes, there's no trust between these two sides. the Russian government fully gets, meaning when they're flattering Trump, when they're saying, oh, Trump is trying to understand our issues, Trump is trying to do this, Trump is trying to do that, they full well know that the only reason negotiations are taking place is because of the conflict on the battlefield between these two sides, and that one side is failing miserably. They have to know that. And I have to assume that that is baked into the cake in their minds as they're going out to negotiate. If that is not true, oh, I can't. If it's not true, I can't. I just can't. I can't fathom that not being true at this point. I could be wrong, but I can't fathom that not being true. I have to believe that Putin has gotten a bit more cynical in his years, as opposed to Mark used to always say that Putin, what concerned him about Putin is that he always had the tendency to want to negotiate. And that in wanting to negotiate, more of a Europhile, more willing to work with the West, more believing in the West. And you can make a case that there are, 100,000 dead Russians as a result. No, I'm not blaming him per se. I'm just pointing out that willingness to trust. Same thing with Iran, where you get Pezeshkian and the reformist government like, hey, I know you guys have been killing people left and right all throughout the Middle East, but sure, we can make deals with those monsters. It's like, really? You really think? It's like these guys got blood in their mouth, and you really think that you can make deals with these guys? Okay. And then they get sucker punched. The world saw that. And I don't believe for a moment that Russia's looking at that, thinking to themselves, they seem trustworthy. Just don't buy it. Just don't buy it at all. This event took place now, the more cynical among us, all throughout social media, was saying, oh my God, Trump is trying to intimidate Vladimir Putin by flying a stealth bomber over his head. That bastard. These are just tricks. These are things that people used to do in the old days when they tried to intimidate people. Putin could judo chop Trump in the moment. That's not the intention of that. The intention of that wasn't intimidation. This was somewhat of an honor. At least that's the way I took it. I don't know why this is intimidating. Trump rolled out the red carpet, literally rolled out the red carpet. They were chumming it up after the meeting, and had very kind words to say to each other during the meeting. Yes, they seemed a bit tense, or Trump did in the very beginning, but behind the scene footage seems like they were laughing it up. CNN tried to make it look like Trump was very angry. It didn't seem like he was angry as he was laughing as they were talking back and forth. It just didn't. I don't think that was intimidation. In fact, they were even Russian snipers. They were deployed, which is wild when you think about it. It's like, whoa, they put Russian snipers out. They allowed that on US soil. I suppose they had to, right? All things being equal, Putin is coming into the United States. You can imagine there are going to be severe security concerns associated with him coming into the US. They screwed over Russian media, yes. But from the standpoint of the way he engaged with Putin, it was a red carpet. And you can tell it was red carpet because of the way that Europe and Western media was responding to it. Just flipping out. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Oh my God, I can't believe he's rolling out the red carpet. Oh my God, Trump got hosed. Putin walked all over him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What they miss is that two world leaders engaging on equal terms The US media is not used to seeing that. And because they're not used to seeing that, what they're used to seeing is Trump deriding rando leader that's there, mocking rando leader that's there, talking down to rando leader that's there, getting a deal with rando leader that's uneven, and him bragging about the fact that the deal is uneven. Oh, Japan is going to be sending me so much money. Europe is going to be sending us billions of dollars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's what it looks like when two world leaders come together on equal terms in order to hash out a deal. They're hashing out that deal because Russia has been able to show hard power, that they were able to hold their own and not get taken down in regards to a war that the US provoked. It's that. In the context of that, Trump needs to get a deal. This is not the same situation as Europe coming to the US begging Trump for a deal, or Canada coming and begging Trump for a deal, or somebody else coming and begging Trump for something. This is not that. Trump sent Witkoff to Russia in order to beg Putin to negotiate. That's what happened. Putin is coming here at the invitation of Trump because Trump needs a deal. There were a few things that was built into this. One, Trump's bluff about the sanctions that I also pointed out, where I kept saying, show me, do it, I want to see it. Well, he's not going to do it. All things being equal, what Trump ended up doing and ended up saying was, well, we've made some progress, so I'm not going to pass the secondary tariffs. Right. A face-saving mechanism, because A, escalating more was problematic, and B, passing secondary sanctions would have had fallback consequences on the United States. So what Trump, in doing this negotiation, begging Putin to come to have these talks, was able to avoid those secondary tariffs in one sense and avoid any kind of escalation on the other sense, meaning Congress passing a $60 billion budget for Trump to sign on to. Yeah, you're seeing two world leaders deal with each other equally. The US is just not used to it. That's all. And so all of the belly aching, all of the moaning, all of the screaming, all of these talking heads on MSNBC and in the newspapers, they are so accustomed to this exceptionalist idea in regards to the way an American president typically deals with other world leaders, that when they are now dealing with a world leader on equal terms, it seems unequal. It seems that the United States is somehow being at a disadvantage. Like, for example, it's like, have you ever heard those people who, I want my country back, those people? And it's like, you want your country back. You never lost your country, bro. It's relative advantage. Let's say that in a particular country, one group was at a 10 in regards to their power within the context of a country. And that's legal, the way that the legal system deals with them, the way that financial interests, financial differentiation between where they are versus where other groups are. And you fast forward 100 years, 200 years, they're at a 9 and the other group is at, 6, maybe even 5. From the point of view of the person who was sitting at 10, they have went from 10-0 or 10-1 to now 10-6 or 9-6. From their point of view, we've lost out. The fact that they're still sitting at 10 is less relevant than the differential between the two sides of one group versus another group. I'm saying that is what is taking place in the way that the US media is kind of looking at this negotiation, where they're screaming that Trump got hosed, Trump got rolled, Trump got blah, 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 blah. Trump had no cards. Trump had no cards. So in the context of having no cards, and you're talking to another world leader, how do you take a dominant position when you're not in a dominant position and you have to deal with the person as equals? I've watched this myself in the Biden-Putin summit in Geneva. The media was screaming at Joe Biden, asking him these kind of weird questions of, hey, did you tell Putin this? Did you say that? Did you pinch his nipples? Did you? It's like, are you serious right now? None of you have real responsibilities of state. All of you can sit on your perch and just kind of scream this stuff without having any real world consequences or even acknowledging the real world consequences to the things that you are actually saying. And it's this also. Trump is sitting here in a fix. He has problems. He's just passed tariffs on the entirety of the world. Those tariffs are going to have reverberations against the US economy. He knows it. He's not going to say it. He knows it. When he's making the argument, well, you can always buy one teddy bear as opposed to 17. Why can't I buy my 17 teddy bears? Why can't I buy my 17 teddy bears? Maybe I want 17 teddy bears. Well, he's pointing it out because he's acknowledging you will have less money based on what I am doing. He knows it. He's a flagrant habitual liar, so he's not going to say it. On top of him being a flagrant habitual liar, not going to say it, to then say, I'm going to pass 100% tariffs on China, India, and whoever else is using oil. Okay, you could do that. They'll be fascinating to watch. In fact, why wait 10 days? Why wait 50? Just do it now. No, I'm going to give it 10 days. I'm going to give it 10 days. I'm going to give it 10 days. Why? Why wait 10 days? Do it now. But of course, he didn't do it now. How are you going to hit China with 100% tariffs when you've already had a trade war with China and lost that trade war? China is not going to take a back seat to you. And because they're not going to take a back seat to you, you're going to end up in a similar situation that you ended up in before, with the extra addition that China has put a restraint on the amount of rare earth minerals that they are dispensing, which means your military, or for that matter, your industries are taking a hit because of it. You can't do it. You could, but there are consequences. How are you going to do this to India? Now, they did this, I think, to like 20% of India's economy. But why just 20%? Why not 100%? If that is indeed what you're going to do. Again, there are consequences to you doing that, especially after you've already passed a trade war against the entirety of the planet. He knows it. So all of these neocons pushing him to increment, to escalate, go after Putin, go after Putin. How do you propose he do that? Trump throws that bluff out. Nobody cared. I think India cared. Nobody else cared. And the closer you got to it, the more the recognition that the bluff, the same bluff that you can use with Europe, the same bluff that you can use with these other countries, was not going to work against a country that did not care about your bluffs. Hence, negotiations. Just fascinating. Just fascinating. Dealing with a peer competitor. Trump, a professional. Now, he's not, look, remove from your thinking any notion of Trump being professional, Trump being moral, Trump caring about lives, Trump being concerned about people getting killed. None of it matters. None of it matters. He doesn't care. Trump's a sociopath. He does not care. What he cares about is not looking bad. Looking bad would be if in 2 months, Donbass falls. That looks bad. That does not look good. Between not looking bad versus coming up with some kind of deal that within a few years they're going to blow off anyway, it is better to get the deal that within a few years they're going to blow off anyway. From the Russian point of view, at least in talking to Arno, they know it. They know it. They want a moment of respect. That's the way they look at it. Somebody can make the argument, and some people may make the argument, I think Mark may even make this argument, that it is better to take all of Ukraine. I don't think they want to do that. I never thought they wanted to do that, even though if push comes to shove, they would have and would have went through a 10-year guerrilla war if they needed to. But Ukraine collapsing is humiliating for NATO, and it's humiliating for the United States. All things being equal, Trump would take the face-saving mechanism, scream that it's some kind of win, and scream that he got a peace deal. That's what he wants. It's not about right or wrong. It's not about ethics. It's not about any of that stuff. Let's go to the chat. Let's see. Basil Beshkov. Basil Beshkov. I think that's right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I butcher names. And thank you, by the way. Thank all of you for this, by the way. Trotsky was in Wall Street 1917, 1 week before the revolution. Lenin got money from Germany. Yes. To destroy Russia. Yes. Yes. Lenin was thrown into Russia like a bomb. In fact, that was the entire point. Germany was on a war on multiple fronts. Germany needed to destabilize one of those fronts. Lenin was agitating, throw him in like a bomb. Lenin made the deal to effectively give up a shitload of Russian territory for German help and German financing. And he did just that. When Trotsky and Russia bitched at the amount of territory that Germany wanted to take, Germany invaded. Yes, you're absolutely right. To destroy Russia sovereign afterwards, a coalition of the willing invaded in 1918. Yes, the more things changed, yes, the more things stay the same. People may not know this, but the United States has invaded Russia prior. What is it? Russia, I'm sorry, the US, Britain, I don't know if France was involved, but all of those countries invaded in order to, I guess, put the Tsar back in power at the point where the Red Army effectively took over. And then plunged in civil war between the Reds and the Whites. Yeah, it's a tortured history. But yes, effed up, right? Effed up. I don't think you're going to get the coalition of the willing this time around, though. I don't think they're committed. The stuff that came out in the newspaper, I think it was the Times, pointed out that Britain and some of these other countries, even though they were agitating that they were going to go into Ukraine, they've decided that they want to save the lives of their soldiers by not feeding them to the Russians. It was always a bluff. The entire point was, if Russia believes that after a peace deal, we're going to put troops in, then they will most likely not get a peace deal, quote unquote. Because again, Kevin, you might be right. I deeply hope, and it's a hope, it's hopium. I deeply hope that this is not a situation where the Russians are looking at this like this is a peace deal. The US is going to stand by it. Europe is going to stand by it. I hope that's not what they're looking at. I hope they are being hyper reactive to any break in provision of that peace deal. And look, security guarantees is another thing. If they are putting in security guarantees with this idea that any infraction that takes place, where the US just kind of ignores Ukrainian infractions, but pay attention to Russian infractions, well, of course, that's a fail. That's a fail. In fact, I would argue that's the biggest, instead of being a peace agreement, if that is the way it's going to be dealt with, then it's the declaration of war. Declaration of war. It gets NATO involved in the conflict that much faster. But again, it depends on, we have to see the deal. We have to see the deal. We have to see the security agreements. We have to see the deal. We have to see all that stuff. We have to see the deal. And I want to hear one more story, because I love this story. There's a guy on Twitter who does shows named Marwar, I think it's Narfall. He knows dick about dick. He knows dick about dick. And yet spends all day posting stories, clips, stuff like that. Many of the stuff he gets wrong. And it's like, dude, how are you just effing this up like this? We already have a mainstream media. Why are you here? But he has a massive platform. Now, McGregor, looking at you, McGregor, I've tried to get you on my show. I would love to have you on my show. I would love to have a conversation with you if he ever gets this. Instead of coming on my show and having a good conversation with me, he goes on Marwal's show and wastes his time completely. It is a funny thing when a man is being interviewed and he openly says, "You are wasting my time. That is an amazing thing. That is just special. That is just special. That is very rarely do you get to see that. Well, you get to see it with Colonel McGregor when he's having this conversation, and Marwal says very stupid things to him that he should know better, and yet he doesn't, because mainstream media has told him so. This is Colonel McGregor effectively completely nailing Marwal. It's the funniest thing in the world to me, and well-deserved.
We're seeing advancements on the Russian side, especially in the recent weeks, but they've been relatively minimal. There's, one could say, a stalemate there. Both sides are losing a lot of men, a lot of equipment.
All nonsense, Mario. Stop wasting my time. Stop lying to your audience. That's bullshit. Okay. The Russian losses have dropped to single digits. Think about that. 60, 90 days ago.
Whew. That is rough. And then there's the nervous cough after that. I'm gonna play this out. I'll play this one more time. I just want to point out the nervous cough. He said I was lying to my audience, and I do a news show. He said I am wasting his time. Why am I here? Why am I here? Oh, that is great. That is great. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I want to watch, and I'll start from the beginning.
We're seeing advancements on the Russian side, especially in the recent weeks, but they've been relatively minimal. There's, one could say, a stalemate there. Both sides are losing a lot of men, a lot of equipment.
All nonsense, Mario. Stop wasting my time. Stop lying to your audience. That's bullshit. Okay. The Russian losses have dropped to single digits. Think about that. 60, 90 days ago, they were double digits. Ukrainian losses are continuously horrific. So this is a nonsense that people are repeating on their way into this discussion with the Russians up in Alaska. You have no chance of coming to any sort of reasonable outcome when you have distortions on the strategic level of the kind that you just outlined. That's absolutely false, completely wrong. Now, you're free to believe it, but I'm not going to sit here and listen to that nonsense because it's just not true. Now, you want to know what's going to happen? If Donald Trump walks into this meeting with the distorted view that you have just outlined, nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens. And I don't think Donald Trump privately believes anything that you've just said. I think he knows the truth.
Oh, that is just great. That is just great. That is so satisfying. That is satisfying. And he's right. And he's completely right. If you are Donald Trump and your intelligence says 8,000 Ukrainians have died over the course of the year, but 120,000 Russians have died, then what do you think in your appraisal of the world and your appraisal of the war? In your mind, well, Russia is moving, they're making small gains, but God, man, they're losing hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of people a month in order to do it, which goes back to the Soviet trope of wave attacks. The Russians are doing wave attacks. They're doing wave attacks. Now, Media Zona doesn't even come up with this assessment. 150,000 maybe over the course of the entirety of the war by the Russians, as opposed to the Ukrainians that are losing more and more and more. Even the bodies that were being returned, where you would get like 5,000 Ukrainians or like, 20 Russians or something like that. The skew is getting worse. The only reason that you would give the screwed up skew, most likely coming out of the Ukrainians, was Zelensky is like, we lost 8,000 people the entirety of the war, or 30,000 the entirety of the war. This is nonsense. You're trying to cover for your failures in this. You're trying to make it look as if it's not as bad as it actually seemed on the battlefield. So yeah, you should continue to give me money. You should continue to give me weapons because we could still win this thing. We could still fight this war. It is very difficult to get people to sink money into something that is a failure, especially when it's a war that comes across as a loss. And when you look at a number of 150,000 to 1.5 million, and you see that they can't plug their hose, that they're snatching pizza drivers, dog walkers, that they are press ganging rando men that are coming out of their houses, that they're adding elderly men, grandpas, into the military, and women, and 18-year-olds, what I would call kids. That's not indicative of you losing 8,000 people over the course of 6-8 months. When you look at Russia, where it has 2 additional militaries in waiting, when you have 400,000 men that deserted, that's not my number, that came out of the Rada. That is reality. You can't plug your hose. Russia's moving faster and faster and faster, even to the point where they're flanking your last defensive lines. And no, they're not losing 100,000 men over the course of a year, maybe the course of the entirety of the war. You're lying for the explicit point of making it seem like the Ukrainian military is doing better than what it is, that the Russian military is doing worse than what it is. And if you're going into the negotiation with those skewed up figures and that skewed up point of view in your mind, a point of view that the mainstream media has ran with for the entirety of the war, by the way, meaning when I was reporting reality, they were reporting nonsense. And as I kept saying early on, reality asserts itself, and here we are. It's asserting itself for the president that has probably the right numbers at this point. When they asked Donald Trump, hey, did you know they were press ganging the elderly into the military? Donald Trump said, nobody told me that. Hey, did you know that they were doing it? Nobody told me that either. When Donald Trump gave that speech before the Alaska thing, he was more informed. Hey, man, they're even pulling an elderly into the military. He knew. And I would wager to you that somebody briefed him and said, hey, this is worse than what we've been telling you it is. Or it is worse than what you've been saying it is. Or it is worse than what is being reported. To Douglas McGregor's, to the compliment of Douglas McGregor, he has been more right on this all the way through. Sometimes he says stuff that I wasn't sure where he got it from. But for all intents and purposes, he has been more right all the way through, far more than any notion of mainstream media, any notion of people like Marwal, who's been reporting this nonsense just coming out of Ukraine. It looks like he was typing up to try to figure out, hey, where did I get these numbers from? Zelensky said it. Oh, if Zelensky said it, it has to be right. Zelensky wouldn't lie, right? I'm trying to make a very basic point. And I've said this before. You tell the truth to end wars. You lie to keep them going. If Trump gets involved, when Joe Biden is talking about the war, and Joe Biden and Europe create this cacophony of lies, this full architecture of nonsense. Russia just wanted to take Ukraine. Russia wants to take all of Europe. Russia blew up its own pipeline. Russia is just looking at all of this land that they want to take. This is nonsense. William Burns' memo, net means net, point out, even back in 2008, if you keep pushing NATO in Ukraine, this is going to create a civil war, a war that's taking place on Russian border that they're not going to want to get involved in. Burns knew it all the way back then. And then, to make it even worse, there are no Nazis in Ukraine, even though the Democratic Party and all of these people full well knew oceans of articles about Nazis being in Ukraine. Victoria Nuland having the conversation with Pyatt, talking about F the EU and talking about the people they were going to stall in Ukraine after the coup. A coup, by the way, that they call the Revolution of Dignity. I'm saying, if you are trying to start and support a war, you lie. If you're trying to get to some level of some kind of agreement, a deal, a ceasefire, or something, some level of resolution, whatever that resolution is, you tell the truth. Going into Ukraine was always a red line. Pushing to the border of Russia was always a problem. All of these people are getting killed. All of these Ukrainians are getting killed. For God's sake, they're dragging in old men and haberdashers and Domino's pizza drivers. This is a disaster. Russia is continuously moving, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you're not going to be entirely truthful because you're a U.S. president and you don't want to come away looking like you fundamentally lost. After all, this is a face-saving mechanism, right? But you need to be more honest than that nonsense. And you need to have a more honest appraisal when you go into the negotiation to figure out where are we actually in real life and where are they in real life. And that is going to give me some context to the deal to which I can make. What's a deal that will be in my best interest given the situation that's taking place on the battlefield in the context of what they want and what they say they want. When J.D. Vance came out that time and said, well, the Russians want too much. What do you mean the Russians want too much? What do you mean? You have fundamentally lost. You're busted. Well, they seem to have changed their tune when it seems like the Russians started to break through and the speed of their events quickened. They changed their tune. Mawal is still here going with numbers like, well, the Russians lost 120,000 people just this year alone in 8 months, and the Ukrainians only lost 8,000. So, these are very brutal losses. McGregor's like, dude, you're wasting my time. I will leave. You're lying to your audience. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Red Axis, Russia did cave. I have to see the deal, Red Axis. We have to see. And it's not really caving. I told you, from my point of view, look, all demands are maximalist from political actors. Putin is a political actor. Period. I've said this for the several months. I kept asking, are Putin's demands maximalist, even though they seem perfectly rational? I said, even in the last video, all leaders get to a certain point where they have a certain amount of fudge factor in what they're talking about. Typically, they're maximalists with this idea that there's a fudge room in it for them to negotiate with. We have to see the deal. Everything that is coming out right now is purely coming out from the United States and from Europe. Russia hasn't said anything. Up to this point, the US and Europe has a tendency to talk to itself. And it talks to itself without including Russia into the conversation. When Russia adds itself to the conversation, things change. So if we are going by what they are saying in the media, it sounds like Putin's demands were maximalists and that he was willing to accept fudge in the context of those demands in order to settle the conflict. So yeah, I haven't deviated from my take. My take has been right. Let's see. This is in Alaska. I saw Vladimir Putin. I was hoping to see Vladimir Russia. What? In Alaska, I saw Vladimir Putin. I was hoping to see. What does that mean? What does that mean? Basil Beshkov. I don't know what that means. Are you trying to say, because Putin has a tendency to want to negotiate? Look, Mark, he has said it on more than one occasion. The thing that concerns him about Putin is that he has a tendency to want to negotiate. He's open to it. He's a politician. Politicians are politicians. Will they make an argument that allow fudge in their argument? Yes, they would. I told you as much. This is not shocking to me. All things being equal, look, Putin had core demands, as I said, and the core demands were non-negotiable. Within the context of this is non-negotiable. NATO doesn't expand. We have to see the rest of the deal. But I will wager to you, NATO doesn't expand. It's going to be built into that demand. That's assuming they even take it. Russia may even believe that they're never going to take it, in which case Trump walks. So I don't know. Hell, Trump may even believe that they're not going to take it, in which case he can just walk. I don't know. But if Trump brings Zelensky, bullies Zelensky into accepting the deal, then the question becomes, okay, well, what does Europe do? Well, if it gets to the point where Europe crashes the deal, Trump may still walk. All things being equal, it may end up being between Trump walking and whatever this is they negotiated. I think your point is you wanted Putin to be a hard ass. It sounds like Putin was a hard ass. Kind of. I mean, if what the US wanted was a ceasefire, and if what the US wanted was these kind of, we just want land swaps. And Russia's like, we need a new security architecture of Europe. We need a permanent deal. And again, let's put permanent in quotes. It's not permanent, but permanent in the way that they're talking about it. Is that caving? If your key demand is that NATO doesn't expand, and if your key demand is that you stop effing around our borders, And let's leave out Armenia and Azerbaijan for the moment, because the US is still effing around their borders either way. But in the context of a war that Russia wants stopped, what are you willing to give to get your ultimate objective? It's that. So, look, I would tell you, from my point of view, I was more maximalist in this. But that means you continue the war. And maybe the war is going to continue anyway. Like, I'm not of any delusion that the war stops. They're still fighting as we speak. Russia's still moving. People are still dying. From my understanding, the US is still arming them. So it's still going. It's still inexorably westward. It is a catastrophe for Ukraine on the battlefield, and they're losing more places every day. Nothing has changed. Zelensky is going to say no. Maybe. I mean, it depends on how much Trump bullies him. Trump is probably going to threaten to walk. And I am not of mind to believe that the entire point of this was for Trump to walk anyway. That's very possible. The entire point of Putin coming here might have been to save some level of political face, to have this conversation where he had no belief that Europe or Ukraine was ever going to accept a deal, in which case Trump has more of an impetus to walk. I hope you get my point. From the Russian point of view, if Trump walks, that's fine. That's what they would prefer. At least that's what I think you mean. Yeah. I guess my point of view, I have to accept on some level, God, at least I hope, I deeply, deeply hope that they are as cynical as I am in regards to the behavior of the US. That this deal is only a deal up until the point where the US believes it has an advantage and that it can rip it up. That is the way any deal they make should be constructed, because that is the reality of events. If they're looking at this as a breather to rebuild, I get it. If they're looking at this as a permanent thing forever, then they're being had. I hope they're not being had. That is my hope. When someone wants to steal your shit, they'll never sing your praises. Basil, what's the last name? Beshkov. That's not true. That's not true. Do you honestly believe that that monsters come wearing the face of monsters? Is that what you believe? Which is easier? When you see movies and you have Satan, he's wearing the face of like a child, like a little girl. The entire point is to lull you into a false sense of security. No, monsters and people who are coming to steal your stuff will sing your praises. It makes it easier for them to pick your pocket. I just want to make sure I didn't misread it. When someone wants to steal your shit, they'll never sing your praises. Yeah, they will. They will. 1,000 times they will. This guy worked with me so much. He was so great. He was so good. He was so fantastic. We got along so well. We were able to make agreement. This is peace in our time. This is going to end and create a new security architecture of Europe. Do you honestly believe that the US believes any of that? When Putin is making this argument, like Donald Trump is trying to understand what's happening in the Russian situation, he's been willing to work with us. He's been an advocate for peace. And when all of these things were happening, where there were these terrorist attacks and everything else, where I argued that Trump was running a sub-war or shadow war under the actual war that he was running, when things were being blown up, when they went after the airfields, my argument was Donald Trump knew exactly what was taking place. It's a shadow war under the actual war. What did Russia do? Did Russia blame him for that? No, they did not. They came out, they said, people aren't informing Trump of what's happening. Intelligence is taking place. MI6 is involved in this. All of this stuff was political. They didn't want to accuse Trump because from their point of view, we believe that this is somebody who, A, we can manipulate, or B, we can at the very least have a much better chance of working with as opposed to some rando that may be in office. So yes, we know full well that Donald Trump was directly involved in all of this. We will not say it. Same thing with Trump. Trump is not trying to understand the Russian position. Trump is not trying to understand what happened when he said, oh my God, I want to stop all of these people from dying. Do you honestly believe that a man who's backing a genocide where they're starving all of these people care about the lives of the people who are being lost in Ukraine? No, it's nothing to do with any of that. And yes, they will lie to your face in order to try to get some level of advantage. That is the point. That is the point. It's just the way it works. So yeah, they will sing your praises in order to get you to have a false sense of security as they pick your pocket. What do you think Minsk 1 and 2 were? Like, meaning when you get Angela Merkel having a conversation with Putin when it became clear that the Ukrainian military was about to buckle the first time around. And have a conversation. Hey, Putin, it's okay. We can settle this. We can come to agreements. We can come to deals. We want to thank Putin for this deal. He's a fantastic diplomat and negotiator and blah, 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 blah. And what did they do? They violated that deal immediately. They never fulfilled the Minsk agreements. Did they sing his praises in order to get him to have a false sense of security? Yes. Yes. Yeah. It is easier to pick your pocket if I can sing your praises and you believe it. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is I don't believe for a moment that the Russians believe it. It's just that I could be entirely wrong. I could be entirely wrong. And I would probably stop doing my channel at that point. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm out. I can't do it. I can't take it. I can't believe that they would put themselves in a position for Minsk 3. And so I have to believe on some level, and I could be wrong, like I said, whatever deal they end up with, either that deal conforms to what they want as their core values and the things that they believe is necessary with various caveats in it, where they can, let's say, assure their interests vigorously, or they continue on the battlefield. I think it's going to be one of those two things. I think from Trump's point of view, Trump has two options. Either they take the deal or they don't. If they take the deal, okay, then they're going to have to be negotiations associated with melding out the rest. If they don't take the deal, will Trump walk? That is the question. Because if Trump walks, this war's over. And Europe knows it. And they know it. And they know it. So there is that. All right. What time is it? Yeah, it's 2:51. I'm going to call this a day. Thank all of you for joining me. If you guys actually like the weekend update, I may make this a normal thing for us to have on the weekends, just as a bookend to the weekend before going into the next day. August the 31st's birthday. I am trying to have a fundraiser megathon show. Is that right? Megathon? That doesn't sound right. Marathon. I'm trying to have a fundraiser marathon show on the 31st, which is my birthday. Now that's going to be on a Sunday, on August 31st. So far, I'm not having a lot of luck getting people to do that show. What I wanted to do, since I'm going to be 48 this year, to have 48 people join, starting at 6:05 in the morning, since I was born at 6:05, born at sunrise, and go through the entire group. That is aggressive. That sounds like that porn star who hooked up with those, 100 men or something like that. It's like, Jesus Christ, like 2 minutes, I make a guy. That's so gross. Oh, that's so gross. It's not morally wrong. It's just gross. Can you imagine being guy 50, got 48, got 30? Oh, that's gross. That's so gross. But this wouldn't be as salacious. This wouldn't be as salacious. This wouldn't be as salacious. We like the weekend show. Yeah, that's nasty. Yeah, it is nasty. It is nasty. Again, I don't make a moral judgment on it. You can do you. God bless. There is nothing above you other than your will. You choose. And I know choose is kind of dicey because people are programmed into stuff. It's like, I'm choosing to go to church. No, you're not. You're programmed to go to church as a child. You just never undid your programming. So again, choices of Fudge. But I don't morally put anything on it. It's just gross. It's just gross. In fact, I think it's gross for the men, not even just for the women. It's like, all right, number 99. It's like, ugh. It's like, ugh. Ugh. Our society is celebrating this part of it. Yeah. Jamal get Lysol as a sponsor. I know, Charles G. I know. It's gross. It's very gross. Grace Jeffs Jamal by all. Well, bye to you also, Kevin. What is this? Rampersad? Justice by Karma. Does anybody know the name Sweden Yap means? I do not. Just curious. I do not, Justin. I'm sorry. Red Axis knows about it. You've been outed, Red Axis. You've been outed. You are being outed. Love and prosperity. Coolest. Oh, cooties is a pretend disease. I hear you. Syphilis is not. Syphilis is not pretend. Neither is gonorrhea. All right. We celebrate Jesus. Can you say amen tonight? We just celebrate Jesus. Minsk 3, what is this? Minsk 3, better than failed Ukraine. Even if they want, stop going up. I want to support Regleton 831. Thank you, Adric Hapoy. Is that right? Adric Hapoy? Pui. I get the feeling that's in a different thing. What was the thing though? Right here. Is it Minsk 3 better than a failed Ukraine? No, it is not. It is not. I'm sorry, it's not. If I am Russia, between Minsk 3 and a failed Ukraine, you take all of Ukraine. You can't do that. I mean, dude, Minsk 2 allowed Ukraine to build up a massive military on the border of Russia. And to have that military, very formidable. It was the largest military in Europe. It was very formidable military. The military that they've been fighting for the last 3 years is a direct result of Minsk 2. So no, it is not. It is not. I'm sorry, it's not. Yeah, it's not. Because you must understand, when people say Minsk, we're talking about Russia getting suckered. It's a euphemism for Russia getting suckered, where Merkel and Hollande comes out and says, we lied to Putin, and Putin believed it. It's a euphemism. It's not about the agreement. It's about the fact that it was never implemented as an agreement. It was a ploy. It was a trick. It was a tactic. That's what we mean by Minsk 3. It's not whatever they agreed upon and negotiated. It's not that. It's the fact that an agreement was made that was supposed to stop a war that was effectively used as a ploy to allow them to get ready to have an actual war. I hope you understand what I mean by that. So, no, between Russia getting suckered versus continuing with the war, the entire point of the war was for safety and security. If you sign an agreement that allows them to undercut your security and safety, then you've missed the boat. You've missed the point. If you need to shoot one Ukrainian in the face after the next, where you're moving to Kiev and you're moving to the border of Poland, then you would do that. It's not what they want. They don't want Western Ukraine. But the entire point of this war was to ensure the integrity of Russia, where Ukraine wouldn't necessarily end up in part of NATO, not to mention they were murdering ethnic Russian Ukrainians. It was a civil war. And so what is the point of putting up this much blood and treasure? 100,000, 150,000 dead Russians over the course of the war. 1.5 million, 1.3 million dead Ukrainians. Why would it expend this much if you give them enough time to build up again, where you have to go through this all over again. No, Minsk 3, it's not a better option. It's just not. At least I don't think so. Even if they want to rearm, who is going to be around for that? Yeah, but what was the point of this war? Right? Like, the idea that you sign an agreement that's supposed to bring a resolution. And in the context of that resolution, they treat it like they did the other one. Maybe they continue attacks. Maybe they rearm. Maybe they're bringing in weapons. Maybe they're bringing in long-range weapons. Maybe they're bringing in, they're still doing call-ups. I'm saying right now, long-range weapons have to be brought into Ukraine, or long-range weapons have to be built in Ukraine. Russia's been interdicting those weapons and been blowing up those factories. What does it look like when you've rearmed Ukraine with these long-range weapons? Why would they want that? I'm saying, if you're Russia and you're trying to settle issues on the battlefield, you should settle them on the battlefield. I would tell you, there are a lot of people who would say, you should not even negotiate. You're winning. You should finish the job. I'm telling you, a lot of people would say that. A lot of people would take issue with Putin even negotiating this deal. A lot of people took issue with Putin even going to Alaska. So, put it in context. Putin tends to be a moderate. He's not this fire-breathing guy that people call him. I'm saying, though, that if you're in the middle of a conflict and you're trying to resolve your security issues for good, or for as long as you possibly can resolve them, and you know they're lying to you, why would you enter into a deal where you know they're lying about the deal, just like they did in Minsk in the previous agreements? That's done. No, that's done. I mean, think of what they did with Iran. We're going to get into the negotiation and then attack Iran in the middle of the negotiation. Okay, well, you can't trust these people. And if you can't trust these people, you need to ensure some way, one way or another, hyper-reactive, that you have the capability of ensuring the integrity of that agreement, if indeed you're going to sign an agreement. Otherwise, what's the point of the agreement? No, I disagree with you, Orwello. Yeah, I disagree with you on that one. Either you have an agreement or you don't. Either it's legit or it's not. If Russia in any way believes it's a trap, they shouldn't sign it. And trust me, they will try to make it a trap. So, at least that's my take. Western Ukraine is pro-West, yes. Well, that's the other thing. Ukraine has to be neutral. They have to be neutral. I would tell you, my biggest fear on them signing the deal, and there are two of them. One, it's a stalking horse for a larger war. So you sign on to a deal, you add in some kind of security guarantee. The security guarantee is supported by, I don't know, Western countries or something. Or I don't know, whoever the security guarantees is signed by. And you get Ukraine creating a provocation where they blow off a provision of the agreement, like they did with Minsk. And then the Western governments pretend like they didn't see anything. Like, oh, we don't see anything, we're blind. And when Russia responds, they're like, oh my God, we have a casus belli to now get involved in a war. Worst case. Worst case scenario. So, we'll see. We'll see. By the way, Brian Berletic will be on the show tomorrow morning. Mark Sloboda will be on the show tomorrow morning. I have a new guest that's going to cover the Sudan and other parts of the Sahel. And I know those aren't the same, but one of my guests really wanted. It's not Johanna. It's not Johanna. Joan. Oh, it's not Jane. It's not Joan. It's Johanna. Johanna. I think it's Johanna. I'm going to go with Johanna. She wanted me to cover South Sudan. The guest can cover South Sudan. So he's going to be on tomorrow evening. He's a new guest. So that should be fantastic. Charles G. Gerald on Friday was pure gold. He was good, right? Zelenskyy was fantastic. He was fantastic. No, it's not. Yes, it's Joan, but it's not pronounced Joan. It's like Jonay. Thank you. It's Jonay. Red Axis, you're fucking on the ball, man. Jonay. Yeah, she wanted me to cover South Sudan. So him and I were finally able to meet up. Well, at the very least, talk. So he's going to be on tomorrow evening tomorrow morning, Eastern time at 9:15. So tomorrow is going to be a power show. Yeah, I think that's all. Most beautiful women, I think, are Ukrainian. Okay. And by the way, I don't think they're bad. It's just, I think they're attractive women everywhere, at least in my taste. I mean, I am in Malaysia, and you have women from India, from here, from Indonesia, from all over. I think most of them are extremely attractive. I even like the hijab. It's very elegant. It's very elegant. And it creates this kind of weird mystery thing where it's like, what's under the hijab? What's under the hijab? Yeah. All right. I'm going to close this because people, they are though. I know, right? I know, they are. They are. They're very elegant. They're very elegant. No, it works. It works. Ton of babes in Southeast Asia. Okay, I'm not going to use the term babes. That's your term. That's not mine. I already get called misogynist for joking. What's her name? But no, I somebody in my chat, bitches, because I was lusting after Kalis. I don't think I was lusting after her. My issue wasn't, oh God, I guess that sounds weird. I was joking her intelligence. It wasn't that she was pretty, it was that she was dumb. That's what I was trying to hammer. And the dumb part mattered more than the pretty part. At least that's what I was trying to. Anyway, that's not the way it was coming across. It was like, hey man, you're into these snow bunnies. It's like, dude, we're covering European politics. If I'm covering Africa, if you want me to lust after some African woman, I can do that. It's not about her being white. It's about her being dumb. It's not even about her being a woman. It's about her being dumb. I don't think she's blonde. She's blonde. Oh, she is blonde. Yeah, she is blonde. See, I didn't even notice. Didn't even notice. Just pretty in conception. All right. All right. You guys, what is this? I always have a smile on my face. I love the hijabs in Malaysia. I do too. I lived 15 years in Saudi Arabia and black. Whoa, what is that? So I was in heaven with multicolored ones. Where you are, Jamal, you have a habit of commenting on Muslim. I do, Victor Brown. And I need to stop that. I do need to stop that. I agree. I need to stop that. I don't mean anything bad by it, but I do need to stop it. I agree with you. I agree. I guess I take issue with the guy calling, I hate the snow bunny term. I think it's so racist. And it's like, look, if I'm covering Africa, if I'm covering Thailand, if I'm covering any of these places, I will behave in the exact same way. I agree with you, Victor Brown. I need to stop that shit. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. Usually that stuff is coming off the top of my head where it's just like, oh, wow, she's attractive. I've lived in Bangkok 10 years, going back soon. Are you? What, Brian is there? I think Brian lives there. Berletic lives there. Barack is a troll that Jamal should kick off the channel. Yes, Barack is a troll. Barack is a troll. All right, I'm going to end this. I'm going to say like, I'm going to say share. Oh, here it is. I always have a smile on my face when I see Jamal is live, even though the discussion is most of the time dark. I know, right? I know, right? I mean, try to make it, it's like dark humor sometimes. It's like dark humor. We're saying shoot people in the face. It's kind of dark, fucked up. Legs for days. Oh, God. Oh, God. Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you're right. Imagine, oh God, man. Israelis and Israeli supporters are the funniest people in the world to me. They fit well within the K-list box of goofballs and idiots, not to mention they're sociopaths or psychopaths. The idea that a guy supports a country that is starving 2 million people, raped a man on TV, with the majority of the entire Israeli public saying, yeah, it's fair game. Israelis should be able to rape Palestinians. And it's been murdering babies and then going on TV and saying those babies were dangerous. That guy saying Putin should be tried in The Hague is, you get the Idiot of the Week prize. In fact, I'm putting you on that list of Kayla's. It's like where you're talking to a woman and she's like, you're so smart. Really? Really? I mean, I like to talk about Israel and I like to talk about the Palestinians. And most women don't say I'm smart. They say that I'm kind of halfway, half-ass. If you squint, I look like Mr. T. But that's where you are. That's where you are. That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. That is the dumbest shit ever. But do you? Do you? All right. Yeah, cults. Yes, these people are in a cult. A murderous cult. A murderous cult. No, I was talking about Barack. I was talking about Barack on that one. I was talking about Barack. All right. I'm going to say like. I'm going to say share. I'm going to say subscribe. I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. And we're going to have a damn good show tomorrow. Be safe all.